King.
Let us pray. O eternal God, direct our thoughts, words, and work. Wash away our sins in the immaculate blood of the Lamb. Purge our hearts from the dross of our natural corruption by your Holy Spirit, that we may, with more freedom of mind and liberty of will, serve you, the everlasting God, in righteousness and holiness this day and all the days of our lives. Increase our faith in the sweet promises of the gospel. Give us repentance from dead works. Pardon our wanderings and direct our thoughts unto yourself, the God of our salvation. Teach us how to live in your fear, labor in your service, and ever to run in the ways of your commandments. Amen. Amen. That was a prayer of George Washington.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the meeting to order and ask that you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger.
Here.
Councilmember Wagner.
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee. Councilmember Lindsay.
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel.
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Council members Lindsay and Freeman did let us know that they would not be in attendance this evening. Lindsay? Oh, I'm sorry. Greenlee and Freeman.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent to excuse Councilmember Freeman and Councilmember Greenlee.
There are no objections, so ordered. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I have an amendment, a request for discussion on something we received in our box concerning a public transportation improvement conference called by the Board of County Councilors.
Okay. We'll put that as new business item number C, which will actually be a little bit of a misnomer since I'm about to remove item B since we covered that item under workshop. So under new business, we'll be removing item B and adding item C, a C-Tran Public Transportation Improvement Conference. Are there any other amendments? Okay. We do have one proclamation this evening, which I've asked Councilmember McDaniel if she would read into the record for us.
I'm more than happy to do that. This proclamation is for Breast Cancer Awareness Month for October 2015. Whereas, while considerable progress has been made in the fight against breast cancer, it remains the most commonly diagnosed cancer and the second leading cause of death among women in the United States. And whereas each year it is estimated that more than 220,000 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and more than 40,000 will die as a result of the disease. And whereas October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, an annual campaign to increase awareness about the disease. And whereas, during this month, we reaffirm our commitment to support breast cancer research and to educate all citizens about its risk factors, detection, and treatment. And whereas, as we display pink ribbons and wear pink clothing to raise awareness, we also support those courageously fighting breast cancer and honor the lives lost to the disease. Whereas, this October, we recognize breast cancer survivors, those battling the disease, their families and friends who are a tireless source of love and encouragement, and applaud the efforts of our medical professionals and researchers working to find a cure for this deadly disease. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite all citizens in our community to prevent breast cancer deaths through increased education and regular screening. I'll let you finish.
Now therefore, I, Sean Guard, Mayor of the City of Washougal, Washington, do hereby proclaim October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Is there anyone here this evening to receive this proclamation? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now we're at that first opportunity in the agenda for anyone from the public that would like to address council. Good evening, Dan.
Hi. My name is Dan Duringer, 931 15th Street, near Washougal. And I'd like to address the council on the head shop that is moving from the Mary Jane's Head Shop that's moving down the block towards this intersection here, over there. And in Colorado, this past week, there was a study released about their situation, what they're dealing with the abuse of drugs. And in that report, they call it an epidemic that they're experiencing with marijuana being used by young people. And one of the key factors that they point to causing the epidemic is the prominence that the drug has within society, just the public view of it. And so that's pretty easy to understand. The kids see, the head shops around, they can see they can buy the marijuana everywhere, that it's going to be on their mind. And that's what the study, concluded in part. I really think that, well, I'd also want to mention that the White House Office on National Drug Policy, they have up on their website their position on marijuana legalization for communities, and it's totally opposed to marijuana legalization. They believe that the policy should be driven by a public health and safety concept. That is their recommendation. We should be looking at the public health and safety. And having head shops just anywhere is not going to be good for Washougal. The Camas Planning Commission this last week recommended a very restrictive zoning for these head shops. And Washougal should be looking at this very carefully now, because Camas, they're going to grandfather anybody in that is already established. They're not going to apply it to anybody that's already established, because they don't want to go through the legal problem at all. But I really encourage Washougal to get on this now and consider getting head shops out of the public site. This one right here is one of the main intersections from Washougal. I live just a few blocks away from it. I think it's a terrible, it will have a terrible effect on our city here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else that would like to address council? Good evening, Rod.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Rod Morris, 4050 Addy Street. Two things. One about the breast cancer awareness. Starting Thursday morning, all of the firefighters in Camas and Washougal will be wearing pink T-shirts for the entire month on calls, and wherever you see them, they should have them on if they're on duty that day. So we are trying to support that. The other is, we have a young lady with us tonight, my wife and I, and my wife had 3 foreign exchange daughters that she helped raise, and one of them was from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and then Karen is from Hagen, Germany. It's northern Germany, and then she had a young lady that was from Saigon, or South Vietnam. And we've seen them all, met them all. They stay in contact. Karen finished her junior year here. some of you know Leanne Hunter. She has a horse stable. Karen loved the horses, went home and decided, I believe after that, that she wanted to be a veterinarian. So she has, her mom and dad live in north of what is called Bremerhaven, and she lived for the last 4 years in Hanover to get her education. So she's been working for a year now in Germany and loves cattle and horses and dogs and small animals. So we're very proud to have her here, and she's a very fine young lady, and we think that the foreign exchange program is a real valuable tool. Her dad was a foreign exchange student, went to Boston, and both of her brothers were foreign exchange students as well. So it runs in the family, and they have lots and lots of stories to tell about living with other families and learning about their cultures. So we're very proud to have Karen here, and she's going to be here for 3 weeks with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Karen, welcome.
Right. So I've been told I have to say something. So hi, nice to meet you all. I just wanted to say that a little bit has changed since I've been here. What I really loved are those public gardens that you have opened. They weren't there when 8 years ago, I believe. And yeah, I love my host parents, of course. They're the reason that I came back after all this time. And yeah, they were 2 years? 3? They went to visit me. So yeah, it's kind of going back and forth. So
They took us through the Black Forest after we got back from Italy.
it looks like the same here. So, but yeah, I really enjoy it, and I just can relax now. And well, it's getting kind of cold because I'm not used to air conditioning. We don't use it in Germany that much, so I had to put this big sweater on. But yeah, have a nice whatever. I don't know what the name is. Council. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yes.
As a beneficiary of the U.S. Army's exchange program with Germany, I spent 6 years in Germany. So I would say, es gefällt mir, Sie kennen gelernt zu haben. Und willkommen.
Bürgermeister Gard.
Yes.
Some of my ancestors came from your part of Germany, so we might be related.
Anyone else that would like to address council? Okay, moving to the consent agenda. Council, this evening, your consent agenda has 4 items on it. Your workshop minutes of September 14th, 2015. Your council minutes of September 14th. Your accounts payable claims totaling $871,945.80. And your payroll checks totaling $181,919.57. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we approve items A through D on the consent agenda.
Hearing no objections, so ordered. Going to new business, Agenda Bill 50-15, authorization for the mayor to sign a professional services agreement with Berger ABAM for design, engineering, and permitting services for the Washougal Waterfront Trail. Trevor?
Thank you, Mayor Gard and Council. This was discussed at Council Workshop on September 14th. Proposed contract with Berger ABAM to get the Waterfront Trail to 30% design. Included in that is connection from Steigerwald National Refuge to the Port of Camas-Washougal. As you know, the Port of Camas-Washougal is at construction phase with their portion of the project, which will be completed up to South 7th Street or so. Also part of the project is field surveying, public involvement, land use permitting, and preliminary engineering design, of course. At the completion of this phase, to get to 30%, we will be able to pursue RCO grant funding, Recreation Conservation Office through the state, as well as be eligible for RTC grants. They have a transportation alternative program, a TAP grant for pedestrian improvements, and that would be in the spring of 2016 for both RTC and RCO. The cost of the preliminary services is estimated at just over $120,000, and staff is proposing to use park impact fee funds or appropriated general fund reserves to pay for the project. The recommended action this evening is to authorize the mayor to sign the professional service agreement with Berger ABAM.
Council?
I can't remember, was it a competitive bid, and were there other bidders on this one, or is that just who we chose for this project?
We went through an interview process,
Okay.
I believe with 3 different firms, to be able to rank qualifications and core competencies. Just so happens that Berger ABAM is providing engineering services for the port, not only for their preliminary design, but for their construction phase portion of the trail project.
Okay, thank you.
David?
Mr. Mayor, at the budget meeting last Friday, I think we looked at this and said we'd like to fund it with PIF funds, Park Impact Fee funds. Is that the way we're going to fund it?
You certainly can. That's a totally appropriate use of the impact fees.
That would be part of the budget, though, would it not? Or does that need to be done now?
This would be for this year's dollars.
To get the preliminary design moving forward in late 15, and then apply for grants in spring of 2016 in regards to leveraging PIF. It is clearly identified in our park comprehensive plan as a capital improvement, so it is a eligible project for PIF funds.
So would it be appropriate at this time to designate that it be paid for with PIF funds, or should that just be a separate?
So moved to
Certainly can.
fund it with PIF funds.
Okay, I'll second that, or I'll move it and you second it, however that works out.
Either way.
So is that a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement and have it funded from park impact fees?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement with Berger ABAM and have the fees funded from the park impact fees. Council discussion. Joyce, you got your hand up.
Well, they answered what I said. I think
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. Any other council discussion questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. With that brings us to item number C, C-Tran Transportation, or I guess Clark County Transportation Improvement Conference. Jennifer?
Sure. You all received a notice from David Medor, Chair of the Board of County Councilors, regarding a resolution that they recently passed calling for a public transportation improvement conference to be convened to adjust the C-Tran public transportation benefit area boundaries. And I just wanted to talk about this because if you go on further with this letter, it says that we have to send a person or a representative from our legislative body. It just says elected. It doesn't say, it has to be a council person, could be the mayor, to represent our city as a member of this conference. And we had to do this by 5 p.m. October 2nd. So I thought we would bring it up today, since this is the last meeting before that date. I don't know how strict they are on that, but just thought we might want to have a discussion about the importance of this conference and what it means for our city, if it means anything at all, and how the council feels about the proposal.
Dave?
I feel very strongly about it, and I would volunteer to represent the city on this, at this meeting on a one-time basis.
I don't understand specifically what the meeting is for.
My understanding is at least 2 of the county commissioners have called for an expansion of the C-Tran service district and taxing district to be countywide, Right now, there are certain areas within the county where there is no C-Trans service, and thus those areas are not part of the C-Trans service area, and the businesses within those areas outside the bus service area are not required to collect C-Trans taxes through their sales taxes.
Mr. Mayor,
David?
as I understand it, it's all about who's going to pay the freight. And that's why I'm interested.
Michelle?
You said you felt strongly about it. Which, can I ask which way and why you feel
Sure.
strongly about it?
I don't want to see Washougal get trapped into supporting, and forgive me, Brent, Vancouver's position on light rail. I don't want the people of Washougal paying for light rail. I don't want them paying for things that they don't get. And that's why I'm very much interested in representing the city on this issue.
Excuse me, is that what the conference is about? As our representative, Councilmember McDaniel, do you have an insight to this?
It's a very good question. This, as far as the redistricting, that took place back in 2005, and I was not a C-Tran representative back then. So you have to go back to previous meetings to kind of figure out why they redistricted and did what they did. My understanding is that they didn't pass a tax increase in 2004 to cover the extra service areas. So, and I think the mayor has another tack on things though too, but that was the reason I thought that they cut back on services in 2005 and couldn't offer general service to the entirety of Clark County, only to the areas that had the highest demand.
Would representing us involve a vote?
Potentially. The
Yes.
proposal from the Board of County Councilors is to, it's clearly listed in the resolution, let's see, to, where is it? I have to find the statement.
Well, the final finding in here is because the conference, the one that they have scheduled, may make such changes in the boundaries of the public transportation benefit area as they shall deem reasonable and proper, but may not delete any portion of the proposed area which will create an island of included or excluded lands, and may not delete a portion of any city. And the altered district is nothing but islands of inclusion and islands of exclusion. The Board of Clark County Councilors hereby adopts the findings of this resolution and proposes that the C-Tran district be restored to the original county-wide area to successfully serve county citizens as it did during the first 25 years. That's an interesting statement, but Michelle?
So if we are included in this boundary, are we going to be getting services that we don't currently get?
No, you're in the boundary now.
No, we're currently in the boundary. We currently charge the C-Trans sales tax on our retail sales here.
Okay.
And so, because we're serviced by C-Tran here, so we are
So
already
this
included.
vote wouldn't affect us in reality then, is that correct, or?
Depends a great deal on what comes up at the conference. This is kind of like convening a constitutional convention. You never know what's going to come up. And I want to make sure that if it does come up, we don't get saddled with something paying for something that we're not going to get. And that's my goal.
I don't think they can do that in this because they don't have legislative authority to levy taxes or any of that. I think it's just a question of, according to this, it's just a question of whether the areas that are now not represented and not currently within the service boundary come into the service boundary, or the boundaries stay as they are, or are altered some other way.
So if we're
But
already
they
in,
can't take us out, so.
I'm not sure I believe that.
if we're already in, is this moot for us to send somebody?
No, it's still, this is a statutory by state law. This is a conference that the county legislators can convene on a,
I think it's every 4 years.
I wouldn't say regular, but on a basis. And the decisions that it makes are binding and final. So either way, I would think that we want to be there.
And I would propose to bring the information back to the council to get guidance from the council on how we should vote.
In deference, since Jennifer McDaniel is our representative to C-Tran, shouldn't she be there?
If it wasn't taking place in the middle of the day, it's from 3 to 7 on a Tuesday. So that would be difficult for me to attend, unfortunately.
My schedule is not so encumbered.
I would support Dave going. If there's a vote that needs to be done.
Yeah, I think we just have to, I don't think we have to vote on anything, but we do have to let them know by October 2nd, so.
How is this different from the composition committee? We hear about.
Composition Board is really just charged with taking input from staff and from the public and determining or confirming what the number of seats are, how the number of seats on the C-Tran board itself are allocated and determined. The Composition Board is one that must convene every 4 years. I think this one has a broader one than that, but I don't remember what it is. Well, it hasn't been done since 2005.
This is an issue of radioactive political controversy, I believe.
Yeah, but
And
I think it's been postured that way.
It is.
And I really would like to see the city kind of stay aloof from that, and I don't think it has anything to do with light rail whatsoever.
No, this is just a question of
So
the
as
actual
far as my,
boundaries of the service area.
you know,
The way it's laid out here, it has nothing to do with light rail. There's no guarantee that light rail isn't going to.
well, there's no guarantee about anything.
I agree.
You know, things could lead to, you know, maybe we wouldn't be having light rail if we didn't have the American Revolutionary War. I mean, you can go back and do a chain of events, and you can get kind of really removed from it. I really don't want to see Washougal be in a political ping pong war here, and something we're really not that interested in. And I don't see how it really impacts us that much, except probably diluting our votes in a C-Tran countywide measure. That's what this is about. That's all it would do.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as something fundamental that should be dividing us. So I would really rather see either Jennifer or the mayor participate in this on behalf of us, and not someone who's kind of gone into it with a predisposition, with all due respect.
I don't hear any respect. I hear an accusation of predisposition, but I will answer that one. Yes, I do have a predisposition. I do not wish to see the city of Washougal, the taxpayers of Washougal, burdened with taxation for which they will receive no benefit. I sense a danger in this regard, and that's why I'm volunteering to get there. I am dissatisfied with the representation that we've had on C-Tran, and I think that you are behind some of that. And I do not feel that the mayor and our current representative on the C-Tran board see this issue as clearly as I do. And I would like, therefore, to be the city's representative on this commission.
I take exception to what you said, Mr. Shoemaker, but I'll just leave it at that.
I take exception too.
I would expect you to.
So, Mr. Mayor, are you available on that day?
So I was just checking. I don't know if I want to say fortunately or unfortunately. At the moment, I have nothing scheduled on that day.
I move that we send the mayor.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second to approve the mayor as the city's representative to the Transportation Improvement Conference. Council discussion.
I think it's pretty well been discussed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I note that we're missing 2 members here tonight.
There's a deadline
So
for
noted.
this, so that's just the way it goes.
It is the way it goes, but I note that we are missing 2 members here tonight.
So noted.
Before we leave this issue, will we get a chance to advise our representatives on how to vote on this?
I think it would be behooving of us to, certainly as the city, to get a little bit more information on this and bring it back to you at the first couple of meetings, at least one of the 2 meetings in October prior to that meeting taking place.
I think that's an excellent idea, and I thank you for the offer.
Yeah, both meetings would happen before, this isn't scheduled until the 27th, so we would have both meetings in October before this happens. So yeah, I think that would be appropriate to make sure that we get information back on exactly what can or can't happen in these regards, and we can ask some questions if we don't get total clarification.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, with that, we are back to public comments. Anybody from the members of the public that would like to comment to council? Okay, seeing none. Under Mayor's Report, I have just one item for you for your calendars coming up also in October. There is an AWC regional meeting, which is scheduled for October 20th, which is a Tuesday evening. I believe it's registration 5:45, dinner and program at 6 o'clock at the Heathman Lodge over by Vancouver Mall. This is one that AWC does on a rotating basis each year and goes out to our regional areas and has a number of topics that they bring up and typically a speaker as well. There's an added portion to this one as well, though. On that evening, we will be giving State Senator Ann Rivers her City Champions Award as a district and recognizing her efforts in the legislature this last year. So we've
Where was this being held again?
that's at the Heathman Lodge,
Okay.
October 20th at 5:45. And any members that would like to attend, if you would just let Rose know, she can make the
I'd like to
appropriate,
attend.
arrangements. That's all that I've got. Council, Brent?
Well, Mayor, I was going to give you a chance to talk about QUITA, and we had a pretty extensive meeting on that on Thursday. I had to leave a little early for it, but I wonder if you wanted to describe where we are with our review of QUITA.
Sure. We have a couple of analysis that we've asked to have done through the QUITA organization. One of them is to deal with some strategic planning and some 5-year strategic planning for the organization and our area in general. We got the initial report back from our consultant this last week and kind of went through that, not really in depth, but went through the report itself, which runs about 4 or 5 pages. Out of that, we're working to schedule a little bit of a retreat or a mini retreat to really get into the nuts and bolts of some of the information that's in there, some of the things that we may want to do on a regional basis as the Economic Development Association here in the East County. So good information certainly available to you as well. It's information that was derived from our consultants out and looking over what we originally put out for QUITA to do, what's been done to date and documented, plus a number of stakeholder interviews and sessions. Some of those comments are in there. It's just a lot of, I think, good information that's good for the organization itself and will help us to start to figure out where exactly we need to go for the next 5 years, or at least where the indicators tell us that we should be moving that organization towards.
That's good summary, so that's all I have.
Okay. Michelle?
There's a Parks Board meeting coming up on the 7th of October at 3:30. I forgot to mention last meeting, I just wanted to thank Trevor, the administration, mayor, and the police department who held an area meeting for the Lookout Ridge. They held a community meeting. It was well attended. There was about 30 to 40 people. It was on the 2nd of September, and the city was kind enough to set up a representative-based committee for proactive input to what solutions might be able to solve a lot of the issues up in Lookout Ridge. And I'm looking forward, Trevor, I don't know if you or David is following up on that to see what comes out of those committee meetings. But again, thank you for initiating that and getting that going.
Yeah, at the conclusion of the stakeholder meeting, we had, I believe, 12 individuals that were interested in going to the next level to volunteer on that, I guess, steering committee or advisory committee. So we're in the process of reaching out to them and getting a meeting set to be able to collaborate with them.
Okay, thank you. And I've also been to Germany. It was my home for a couple of winters and a Christmas, and I love your Christmas markets. Mine was courtesy of the Air Force, but I would love you to initiate some Christmas markets in Washougal. They're awesome, and they make people feel welcome no matter where you're from. So maybe if you stay here long enough, and get a booth going, get some Glühwein and that stuff going.
So is it Christmas market,
They
a
call it-
farmer's market, but for Christmas time,
I
or?
mean, everything, dolls, handcrafts, a lot of liquor,
They call
and
it glue wine and now.
Beverages?
do they?
Yeah, they pronounce the
And,
W like we do.
I guess, yeah, a farmer's type market, but more with crafts and food and wine, but, yeah. But it's in almost every single one. And they're all amazing, no matter how big or small the town is. Just neat.
New project for us, right?
Yeah. Joyce?
One, I just want to comment on your meeting up on Lookout Ridge. I was doorbelling up there, and several people mentioned how pleased they were that that happened and that the community was involved. So that was a good thing. I have I gave the council library books. I bought them at the library books sale. The Washougal Library is having the book sale, and it's Imagine a New Library. The funds will go towards the new library. So it was great fun to shop for all of you. And there's a pumpkin party it's not a Christmas market, but there is going to be a pumpkin party on Wednesday, October 21st. Free pumpkins, and it's for the family, so mark your calendars. Oh, the mayor was swinging in the park the other day for the Parks Foundation. Did you make any money?
I did, I know I at least made over $100, because that's what came in physical ones. I don't know what all came in online, so.
Yeah, okay,
I haven't
good.
received that information yet.
It was fun. Our parks are wonderful, and that was a fun afternoon.
Jennifer?
Did you throw up?
I did not. I actually slowed down before I did.
Okay, good.
As appropriate, my donation container was a bucket, so there you go.
Okay. Yes, just a conversation that I had with Administrator Scott the other day. We are receiving a grant to build sidewalks, basically on the north side of Evergreen from Safeway to 34th. Is that correct?
Right.
My question was to get an estimate on cost to continue that sidewalk all the way to Jemtegard. No, with full knowledge that it's not all city property, and that we would have to deal with the county and et cetera, the school district at some point as well, partnering with them. But because of the investment that's going to be made for the new schools out at Jemtegard, and the fact that, you know, currently we have quite a few kids walking along Evergreen on basically which is just a dirt path. I think it's important for the city to look into a proper sidewalk for the new schools that will be built there, so, the kids. And that was all I had.
David?
I have to apologize to my colleague because I missed her comments the other night, last meeting. Michelle, you mentioned the artwork that's being installed on the piers from, I believe, Women Who Work. And I'm reaching back several years when this proposal first came forward. One of the things that we did at that time was we said if it's going to be done, it ought to be done with private money rather than public money. And I understand that private money has been raised, and I congratulate the people that did it. Joyce, I have to assume you were involved in that somehow.
Not much.
Not this one, okay.
No, thank you. It would be a nice assumption, but not much. I just am very supportive of that project.
I understand. My concern is that there are costs associated with that project which appear to have been forgotten. Among them, if I remember correctly, was a $6,000 cost to prepare the pier, which is in not too good repair, to accept the artwork. And then there's the issue of maintaining these things in perpetuity. And I wanted to bring those issues to the forefront for the council because I don't think it's a wise idea for the council to get involved in what is usually known as public art. And I recognize I'm a minority opinion on the board, especially tonight. But I wanted to voice my concern about that. Trevor, I don't think the estimates have changed all that much on that, have they?
Well, they're not going on the piers.
Yeah, they're
They're
not.
being installed other places other than on the steamboat landing, it's on the landing itself, so there are no costs as far as that's concerned.
There are no installation costs for the city. Are there any maintenance costs?
Long-term, negligible.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty minor repair for the most part, depending on what type of art. I mean, I know we've had a relationship with the Women Who Weld in Clark County. We will be doing some piling repair down at Steamboat Dock in 2016, or it's proposed to do some repair in 2016 where we've experienced some damage from boats and vessels and from just pedestrian use down on that dock. So, but I would say minimal repair, depending on what type of artwork it is.
On that basis, I have to stifle my opposition and give way to those with a better aesthetic sense than I have, which includes almost everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Just thank you to Michelle and Joyce both for your comments in regards to the meeting that was held with the neighborhood associations. Really, all of those kudos need to go to Trevor. He's the one that took the lion's share of that project to bring that about, and he actually came up with the idea of how to put us all through that evening. So it was a full chamber, so for the rest of you, Michelle was the only council member that was here on the HOA invite list. We had standing room only and then some, so it's interesting to hear that some of the folks were appreciative that we took those efforts, because I wasn't too sure as we ended that evening where that might be. But
I want to make a comment. Another piece of information I took back talking to a gentleman that lives on H Street, and he said that the speeding on his street is a problem, but if there was just even a speed limit sign, wouldn't that help? And I brought that back to the city, and lo and behold, there's speed limit signs on that street. So thank you. It's really nice to have the city so responsive to the needs of the community. It does make a difference. I'm knocking on doors and I'm hearing what people say. It matters. So thank you very much.
good. David?
In that regard, Trevor was kind enough to put a warning for deer crossing up on 32nd Street at my request. I now notice that somebody's put a little orange dot on the nose of that deer. So we have Rudolph. I know that somebody's going to probably want to remove that at some point. I think it's kind of cute. I think it ought to stay.
Okay, if there are no other items, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you for the book.